Welcome to United We Spay, the show dedicated to promoting affordable spay-neuter services nationwide. Each episode delves into the heart of the movement, sharing inspiring stories and driving positive change. Our goal is to raise awareness, educate, and empower, addressing overpopulation's root causes to ensure every animal has a chance for a better life. Hosted by Stacy LeBaron and the United Spay Alliance team, we're on a mission to change lives. Fed up with the fixation on symptoms in the animal welfare conversation, it's time to change the narrative. Join us on United We Spay, where we make a difference by spreading knowledge and building a compassionate world for animals. Let's put prevention first and spotlight spay-neuter in the animal welfare space.
You're listening to United We Spay, a podcast from United Spay Alliance. United Spay Alliance works to promote accessible, affordable, and timely spay-neuter services because an ounce of prevention today can prevent untold suffering tomorrow. Spay-neuter, it's public health for pets. I am Stacy LeBaron, United Spay Alliance board member and host of the show. And today on United We Spay, we are talking to Julie Jacobson. Julie grew up in Minnesota and moved to Tennessee after retiring from the U.S. Air Force in 2002. She got her first dog, and because of her personality in 2004, started volunteering with a local animal welfare group in a small county with no veterinarian, no shelter, and no animal control. She became president of the organization and changed focus from rescue to spay-neuter in 2005. In January of 2010, she began Spay Tennessee, actively networking with spay-neuter clinics and assistance programs across the state. Her specialty is helping groups get a spay-neuter assistance program started and teaching them how to write grants. Julie, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So before we jump into our conversation today, first and foremost, why are you passionate about spay-neuter? Is there a single story or moment in time that really stands out to you?
Well, when I started with the county program, we were doing a lot of rescue and foster, and I was fostering. And the common refrain was, well, if you want job security, get into rescue. And I thought, if I'm going to be doing the same thing for 20 years from now, I'm just going to quit now. There has to be a smarter way. Of course, look at me 20 years later. Although I'm a much different capacity, I'm no longer fostering. But yeah, it just became obvious that just like personal health, prevention is much more cost effective than treatment of the disease. And yeah, if your basement's flooding, what do you do first? Turn off the spigot or start bailing? So I really knew that spay-neuter was the answer. And so fast forward a few years, small county, 10,000 people, and I went from fostering about 100 puppies a year to 2 or 3 litters a year and shipping most of those up to New England. And then really just not having the call for puppies. There just weren't the puppies anymore. So I kind of put myself out of work, which was my goal. But I also realized I couldn't take my foot off the gas. Even though we were not doing anywhere near the numbers we had been doing, we couldn't stop the spay-neuter effort. In fact, we went from, when there is a litter of puppies, we could do intrastate transfers out to East Tennessee, where there's a lot of spay-neuter happening for years. And so that was a big watershed moment. Spay-neuter works.
And unfortunately, we don't have a video that goes along with this podcast, but Julie has some fantastic glasses that say spay-neuter on each side. So for those of you who don't know Julie, she can be a pretty good jokester. You know, you bring fun to it, which is important. It's important to bring light to the work that we do in the animal welfare space as well as in the spay-neuter space. Now, when you say spay-neuter works, but you also talked about the Humane Society. So you only talking about spaying and neutering before adoption, or you also talking about spay-neutering owned cats and dogs? When you say that, like, what do you mean? Is it everybody, or is it just sort of in that animal welfare space?
No, it's everybody. I saw this really good pyramid once written by a really smart gal that shows that the focus of your effort, the base of the pyramid, should be fixing owned pets. And I firmly believe that. In fact, tagging along with that, I think one thing we found across the state is that if you strive to fix all the pets in the household, that's how your program can be the most effective. If you're letting them pick and choose to fix their female dog and have their 2 male dogs free roaming, well, you've wasted a lot of money, or it hasn't been as effective as it could have been. So I think striving to fix all the pets in the household really does make a huge difference. It does take more time. It takes more money. But again, it's easy to make it affordable because you just make it cheaper to do all of them than to do one. So again, that takes time and some talking with people. And because of that, what we found when you're fixing all the pets in the household, where areas where spay-neuter clinics have opened, with the private vets end up expanding because wellness becomes affordable when your household pet census is under control.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, that actually the private practice veterinarians will benefit from having a community of spayed or neutered animals. It elevates the status of them in the community. We find many community cats that are spayed and neutered are then absorbed into family households. They may have been loved, but when they were not neutered, they were not coming in that house. And once they got that cat neutered or spayed, then there's more opportunity for them to have some placement. And there's value to that cat. It's got a rabies vaccine and it is spayed or neutered. When you first started out, I'm going to go back in time a little bit again, when you were just doing that county-wide program, were you driving around and picking up cats and dogs, or was it mainly you were helping facilitate clinics, getting funding, letting the community bring those animals in directly to the clinics? I mean, how much of it is a people-driven opportunity? Like if you can create low-cost spay-neuter or free spay-neuter, people will come? Or did you have to do a lot of legwork? I often hear people say, oh, well, I have to drive all over the place to pick up these owned animals and bring them to the clinics. And I feel like, can't we ask the community to do a lot of that work?
I think we can, because my line that I teach other people is that is not a service we provide. Now, the good news is when we started, there wasn't a local area spay-neuter clinic. So I was using, I think it was 9 private vets in 5 counties. But most of the people could go there because, again, our county, if you wanted to go to Walmart, you went to a different county. So our people drove to other counties for goods and services, and then the clinic opened in the town where most people went anyway. So there really wasn't much of an issue. Occasionally, I would do some transport, but a lot of the driving I did was to go look at a litter of puppies or look at the parents and get some good pictures or go pick up those puppies because I didn't always trust people to get them to me safely. And I didn't want them to know where I lived.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's for the rescue part of the business, not the spay-neuter part of the business.
It's for spay-neuter, yeah. I occasionally did the transport, but rarely.
Yeah. And in my opinion, I think that if you are interested in assisting with reducing overpopulation in your community, you can do quite a lot of it from your desk.
Exactly.
You are a grant writer. You are a fundraiser. You are a administrator, a coordinator. You have clients, private clinics, spay-neuter clinics, and you work on basically matching the needs of the community for affordable spay-neuter services with some grant funding and fundraising and donor money, and then also with the clinics and their needs. And you have an objective of ensuring that these clinics are successful, sustainable, and that they keep running for years and years ahead. You started out with a community-based program, but then you made a big jump to like the whole state of Tennessee. And when did that happen and why did that happen?
Well, I talked to a guy I really respected in Chattanooga, and I was interested in spay-neuter, and I just kept getting referred to these databases that were rescue and animal control and shelters and these different things. And there was no place to find spay-neuter resources because I figured out that the public knew it was the right thing to do. They just didn't know how to do it and how to do outreach. Because again, it was working in our county. So I thought we need to do this statewide. So I said, what do we need to do to get more spay-neuter in Tennessee? That's been my goal. And he said, we need a database that's focused strictly on spay-neuter. So I started making one, just all the spay-neuter resources. Forget the rescues, forget the shelters, forget animal control, spay-neuter resources only. And apparently that's when Esther I guess she was Spay USA at the time. She was looking around for somebody and she got my name because I was already making calls and trying to create this database. So anyway, so that's how that started. And then just networking around the state and talking to people and, what policies work, how to best do outreach, how to write grants, how to get money. In fact, speaking of grants, it's one of the most frustrating things now, because I talked about you can't let your foot off the gas. We were doing a lot, but you had to keep doing it. I think COVID proved to everybody that you can't lift your foot off the gas for spay-neuter. And I'm very disappointed in this seismic shift to wellness instead of spay-neuter. I do not understand the goal or the intent or any rationale, because it has certainly not helped. In fact, again, one of my goals is to keep all of our programs sustainable and operating. And right now, our biggest problem is money. I asked the clinics around the state, how many of your clients need subsidies? They can't even afford your low cost. And it's about half. And as far as our spay-neuter assistance programs, they have even more than that, because that's their whole focus. They are strictly helping people. And our clinics would be helping more people if they had more money. And a lot of our assistance programs that are making huge differences in small counties, because they're doing 1,000 animals in a county of 20 or 25,000 people. They're doing 1,000 animals a year. That's a lot, but it takes money. And the loss of the grant funding has really, really hurt.
Yeah. One challenge with regards to definitions is, in my opinion, wellness includes spay-neuter.
Yes.
And I almost think that spay-neuter comes before wellness. You used to say, or a wise woman that I know named Julie would say, fix before you feed, right? And I think fix before you vaccinate is also a very valuable way to put it, because the resources that are put into a cat or a dog that is sterilized has incredible value from a public health standpoint that goes above and beyond the vaccination of those animals. In my opinion, I feel like having an animal sterilized helps the community's overall health incredibly.
I totally agree. It's a public health and safety issue. And yeah, the foundation of wellness is fixing.
So I do think that that is something that we, as funders, as well as fundraisers, we all have our own resources that we are fundraising to. We have the hours that we are working, that we are volunteering. As you say, the hours that we would spend going out trapping the litters of kittens that didn't have to be born in the first place. If I took that time and applied it to doing a fundraising initiative of some kind, and then utilize those funds to sterilize large group of cats, really appreciating every dollar that is donated and really thinking, how am I making this dollar the most impactful dollar possible? I used to do an exercise with my board of directors. It said, if you had $100, how would you spend that $100 on the various programs that we had within the organization? And at the end of the day, we did this for several years, and we started out like adoption. Everybody wanted to put it in adoption. And then over time, as we learned, and we weren't seeing the changes in the population, we were just doing the same over and over again. And we're like, we need to do something else. And that's where we then started the Catmobile with the mobile spay-neuter clinic. And then you start seeing the impactful change in the adoption centers, in the intakes from the community, and just the general health and wellness of the community. Is your organization working to improve the lives of outdoor cats? United Spay Alliance's Community Cat Grants program offers matching grants, mentorship, and fundraising guidance to help you grow your impact. With 2 grant cycles each year, there's always an opportunity to apply, but don't wait. Application deadlines are March 31st and August 31st. Learn more and submit your application at unitedspayalliance.org/community-cats-grants. As the state leader for United Spay Alliance and wearing the hat for Spay Tennessee, you do regional meetings all around the state?
Yes, we've done those. One of my favorite questions to ask the room is, who thinks they're in the worst county with the least support and the biggest problems? And every hand shoots up. And my message is always, you are not alone. Look around you. Everybody, there's people doing the same work. It started out with the regional meetings, and then we had a closed Facebook group. I have a closed Facebook group where people can vent and ask their questions or call me and I'll talk you off the ledge. And that Facebook communication and networking really helps. And then I guess it was during COVID, because we didn't do regional meetings that year, but we started Zooming. And so now we have a monthly Zoom and with different guest speakers and topics that gets recorded. And so that's been really helpful too, just for the groups to know that they're not alone. And then we can share, how do you handle this kind of situation? And what about this? And what about that? And how to get people to fix all the pets in their household.
So in Tennessee, do you have to be a veterinarian to own or run a spay-neuter clinic?
No, most of our spay-neuter clinics are run by nonprofit organizations. There's a couple private vets that are in our database just because they do so much spay-neuter and they have pretty affordable prices.
And so if I were a person in an area where I felt like there wasn't enough spay-neuter and I wanted to start up a clinic, how would I do that? Or have you helped people start clinics?
Well, when they want to start a clinic, I often refer them to some other clinics in their area or in the state and to the ASPCA website, the mothership, as I call Asheville. And so I do that, but I don't get a lot of those calls. I get more calls that there's no spay-neuter clinic. Well, you're a county of 15,000 people. It's probably not realistic, but you can start a spay-neuter program. Then I send them a checklist for how to be a legal nonprofit in Tennessee. We talk about a smart name. Don't call yourself a humane society. And then just some of the basics. Get a post office box. And then we run through how to do outreach and things.
Julie, what is a spay-neuter program? What does that look like?
It can be done a lot of different ways. I'm not a fan of vouchers because of the printing and postage costs, because one group spent they're small, it's $1,300 on printing. And I asked, how many cats can you fix for $1,300? But you can do a Google Doc that between you and your provider, or sometimes it's just an email. It is good to have communication in writing. But yes, as recently as 2022, when our county program closed, I tracked it. It was a good 30% of the clients I talked to, which was several hundred, did not and could not or would not go online. So an online applications process, that can work for some people. Again, how do you know you're getting all the pets in the household? They might lie, or you can ask that question, but you have to have a phone number to supplement an online application. There has to be a way for the public to reach you. And a lot of rural Tennessee, people just won't go online. In fact, most of our 95 counties don't have county-funded shelters or shelters at all.
So someone will call you up and then you will find them a veterinarian to go to?
For Spay Tennessee, I find them a program that can help them in their area. I'm the connector. I don't fund. I just call this clinic, call this assistance program, or there's a great group in White County. There's a great group here.
And then what happens when their program runs out of funding or they lose their veterinarian and their staff? Do you play any sort of a role in trying to help support these groups to keep them open through challenging times?
Yeah, and I kind of suggest don't do it for free because that's not sustainable for small programs. Try to get a copay. Maybe you have to increase your copays. But again, I really push all the grant deadlines. And again, I teach them how to write grants and remind them about grant deadlines and help them look at their draft applications, help them find funding. We could hire several vets at our spay-neuter clinics in Tennessee right now. A lot of them could be doing more because they have a second table or a third table. They just don't have a body to stand at it.
So you are feeling the impact of the veterinary shortage in Tennessee?
Yes.
And based on what you have seen, and I have seen you put pitches out everywhere saying, we need veterinarians in Tennessee. Please come, move to Tennessee. What would be the ideal recruiting tool to get veterinarians to come to your clinic or come to your region of the country that needs support?
Well, my offer is I'll give you Dollywood tickets. I'll give you Grand Ole Opry tickets. I'll give you tours of the Jack Daniel's distillery and Uncle Nearest. Yeah, backstage tours of the Ryman. What do you want? It'll be in your welcome packet.
So basically, it is really challenging to recruit veterinarians all across. Nobody has a magic sauce out there, as far as you know. Yeah. You have assisted a lot of organizations in learning how to do grant writing for spay-neuter. And if you could share a couple of tips with our listeners, what would they be?
A grant application is not a blame game. It's not a place to register your discontent. It's a place to show that you're proving you're a good steward of the dollars because you're paying attention to the questions, you're answering them, and you know the problem in your area, and you know the solution, and you know what you can do with the funding asked. And this is a foot stomper. If this request cannot be fully funded, we can fix fewer pets with your money.
So keep it simple. Don't think you have to write a dissertation. Answer the question as it's been asked and be thankful, respectful.
It's not a history lesson of your organization.
Right.
Its narrative needs to be clear and concise. And do not say that in 7 years, one female cat and her offspring can create 420. As for animal welfare organizations, they know the problem. That's why they have money. You're telling them you know how to fix your problem in your area.
Right. And do you feel that all of these organizations need to be listed on GuideStar or Charity Navigator or any of those sites?
I think that is a really good practice.
Lastly, question that I want to ask you is about other types of fundraising. There's been a lot of conversation around donor advised funds and those types of giving vehicles. Do you have any tips? I think that community is really oriented towards strategic thought, willing to get that spay-neuter message out there because it is an upstream solution. But I'm just not sure if you've had any experience with the donor-advised funds much.
Not much at all. But we are seeing some of our programs are being included in people's wills and estate. In fact, we sometimes help them advertise a little bit. Please consider us in your estate planning, because you want to be in the donor's head when they sit in front of their lawyer writing their will, and the question will come up, are there any charities you'd like to support? And you want your name to float around in their head because they've seen you have that ask either in your annual appeal letter or at the check-in desk or on your Facebook page. In fact, when I had the county program, our best fundraiser every year was somebody who died. The family said, in lieu of flowers, please donate to Friends of Animals, because we had helped them. And so I tell everybody, leave your information at the funeral home, bring in a little flyer, your card, bring some information to them because they like to have options to present. And please include your pets in your own estate planning. They shouldn't just be left high and dry. Include them in the estate plan and consider a stipend for their care.
Yeah, pet trusts are very popular now. Also, I have done some research on actually providing information about community cats that folks are feeding and how do they provide for those, whether it's in their own backyard, privately, sort of more of a private colony versus the public, where I'm going around to 10 different locations and feeding 200 cats that way. Knowledge is power. And so it's really important to be able to share and disclose that information and not have it be lost in the chaos of what happens if somebody does pass away. If folks only had one takeaway from listening to our conversation today, Julie, what would it be?
If the no-kill managed intake policies were working, every shelter and rescue group in America would not be overflowing today. We have to get the focus back on spay-neuter and the funding. And again, an effort to fix all the pets in the household. You can't reach all the households in your community, so you must fix all the pets in the households you do reach, or every household in your community is still adding to the problem. And that's not a good use of your dollars.
And that's sort of a targeted focus, right? And really using your targeted resources in the area of the greatest intakes into that shelter, really drilling down to the areas that have the densest population where the animals are being sourced in. So targeting it on that area, and then also doing sort of supportive maintenance care to the other areas, but do look at some pockets. And managed intake with animal shelters in concert with a high volume spay-neuter program can work very well, because then you can ask the community, I will spay mom cat, you hold kittens until they're 8 weeks old. We will get kittens spayed and neutered. You keep mom cat, we'll put kittens up for adoption. And the full circle has been completed and it's not going anywhere else, right? And so there's this collaborative effort that works together. I don't care if you want to call it managed intake or other things, but managed intake is 1/10 of all of the basket of tools that we need in order to be able to support the animals in our community. So it's just this like little part of the story. It isn't the story. Julie, you see it so much down in Tennessee. I have one last follow-up question for you. Many folks in New England and up north get their animals from down south. What's that transport situation like for animals in Tennessee right now?
Well, it's still happening. And I think that groups that are importing animals from the South need to have certain requirements. Their source shelters or their source rescue groups need to have a spay-neuter assistance program happening in the community. Otherwise, you won't work with them. The destination shelters should be demanding that instead of taking more animals from a rescue in a year, they take fewer every year. There needs to be an effort because we can solve this problem. But when the perception gets going that we in the South are too stupid to solve our problem, we're not. We have resources. And there's this cachet of the Dixie dog, the animals from the South. I would like to see much more focus on managing that effort. There needs to be some requirement. I've heard groups say, oh, puppies is money. Because we can ship them up north and we get money for them. And we have to send them to New England where they're needed because they don't have any, because they do too much spay-neuter. I mean, I've heard all of those lines, and it's a fallacy. So, yeah, there's still a lot being shipped to New England and other northern states.
Julie, if folks are interested in finding out more about the work that you're doing and you have a beautiful website, how would they find you?
spay-tennessee.org. And also our Facebook page is facebook.com/Spay Tennessee. My email address is spayzilla@yahoo.com. spayzilla@yahoo.com. In fact, one of our most popular flyers recently is what to do while you're waiting for your appointment, because there is the vet shortage and appointment waits can be for a while. So one of our volunteers made a nice flyer, what to do while you're waiting for your appointment.
At United Spay Alliance, we fix for life because spay-neuter is more than a procedure. It's a promise of health, security, and compassion. Learn more at unitedspayalliance.org. That's great. I'm going to download that. That's excellent. All right. So I want to thank you, Julie, for being with us today. And thank you, folks, for listening to us. If you liked this episode, be sure to share and subscribe. We release a new episode every month highlighting important conversations and inspirational stories from the spay-neuter movement in the U.S. and around the world. Find more resources for spay-neuter and learn more about our work at unitedspayalliance.org. Get in touch with us anytime at info@unitedspayalliance.org. Until next time.